So we're here at TF Tuned and we're going to show you 5 common mistakes that people make with their dropper posts, suspension and rear shocks. But first, Greg, thank you so much for having us.
Okay.
Who are TF Tuned?
So we are one of the larger servicing and tuning companies in the UK for bicycle suspension. We've been going just over 20 years, have 13, 14 members of staff, got a couple of part-time ones, and yeah, we get through somewhere in the region of 35 to 40 jobs a day between the 7 technicians that work on the shop floor.
Amazing, so you are definitely qualified to show us some common mistakes.
Some common ones, some not so much, but yeah, we've seen a lot.
Seen it all.
Seen it all, yeah.
All right, let's go through those now. So, Greg, number 1 problem has to be people just not servicing their parts, right?
Got it, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so why is that a problem?
Well, manufacturers specify a certain amount of maintenance for the products, some full service intervals and some partial service intervals for just lowers and post kind of shells and stuff like that just need to be looked after. And when people don't do it, it results in wear, damage, and if you kind of have a product, use it a lot, 3 years or so without touching it, you end up with a big service bill at the end.
Yeah, so we've got some examples here. What's happened to these?
So we've got classic CSU, so upper part of the fork, which you would see kind of the arch here, and you can see kind of just about on camera there 2 nice patches of wear there where the anodizing's just started to go light. That is kind of, I suppose, not the worst I've seen by a long way, but not ideal, because you can see it's not straight, not smooth, it's going to leak oil, bushes. When this thing came apart, it was pretty dry, it had no oil in it.
Wow.
So generally that's like kind of a real common one.
So going from black to silver is showing us that there was no lubrication in there and it's literally friction just wearing away.
You got it.
At your stanchions.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yep.
What else we got here?
So this internal component part you wouldn't necessarily see, but because of the lack of sealing surface and kind of dirt contamination that can get in the lower legs, this part's hidden in the lower part of your fork, and the dirt's managed to make its way onto the lower shaft and basically put a great big scratch down the length of it. So this thing's not going to hold air. And these are one of these products where, annoyingly, you have to buy quite a considerable part of it, so the bill becomes very expensive very quickly when you find damage like this.
Yeah, so you may not be able to see this like you can see these stanchions wearing out, but if you'd have kept up with your interval servicing, your service intervals, that would have been sorted.
Exactly, yeah. And I suppose the same with that dropper post. You can see plainly black on one side, silver on the other. That is as a result of just water contamination, play that's been getting worse and worse and worse. I think this seat post was run for maybe 4 years before it was serviced. Had not had the thing apart.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but people do it, annoyingly so.
So people not using their stuff can actually be bad.
Yeah,
right, well, what's happened here?
So, yes, it's a slightly strange one. People kind of go, oh, I haven't used it for 3 years because of, had life happen, and then suddenly you get back on the bike again and the thing fails. So I think this one, it's not super obvious, but was maybe washed slightly too...
Vigorously?
Vigorously was the word I was looking for, thank you very much. Karcher being, or someone using a jet wash basically. But yeah, it's got quite a lot of corrosion, dirt, stuff. This has been sat with water in it for a number of years, and as a result you end up with kind of bands of corrosion. You can see the inside of that's all furry and fuzzy. Bushes have started to delaminate. Yeah, it's just not ideal. And again, it's kind of, if it was taken apart and serviced, the lower even, it might not be in that state, just where it's been sat there for 3 years, submerged basically.
Underwater.
Yeah.
So potentially not using products, but also jet washing products.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, we all love a power washer, don't we?
We do love it.
It makes the bike really clean, but yeah, you just got to be super careful with, not going into the seals, and yeah, your e-bike motor probably doesn't want it firing at stone cleaning level. Yeah, we do see quite a lot of water contamination, and then it kind of depends how the thing's stored as well. If it's stored by its front wheel, everything makes its way to the seat post area. If it's stored kind of on its wheels, then everything makes its way into the lower legs, and kind of, so you'll see different wear and or damage as a result of kind of almost how the bike's being left to its own devices, I think. So.
Okay, speaking of jet washing, I reckon someone's jet washed the paint off their spring there, or maybe sandblasted it. I don't know. What's gone on here?
Done a good job, hasn't it? I think maybe springs had an impact at some point, and then some water's got underneath the layer of paint, and then the paint's gradually managed to make its way off. But a probably key thing with that is that didn't happen overnight. That's been happening for a while. And obviously you can see the state of the coil underneath is pretty badly corroded. Next step is that snapping in half, which is kind of less than ideal. Shock's just going to randomly implode on itself at some point, and then you're going to be left on a trail somewhere with a bottom bracket this high away from the floor, having to drag your bike back by its front wheel, swearing probably.
It's corroded, it's weakened, it could potentially break and cause a bit of an accident. So the problem here is ignoring problems.
Maybe ignoring things that are, I mean, that was, I want to say, reasonably obvious that it was going that way. So, it's maybe, if it doesn't look great, it probably isn't, to be honest. So.
Okay, what's happened here, Greg? Some big old dents in this.
I think the shock itself actually isn't in great condition just because it needed a service anyway. We've already been through that. This particular one brought down because I think what's happened is the customers had a go themselves, which is fine because it's a RockShox product. Some products are like more user serviceable than others. RockShox do a real handy manual online that give you all of the breakdown of everything that you need. You need to kind of go through it and make sure you've got all of the appropriate tools and stuff before you start doing it. And I think what maybe happened here is the person's had a go at it, not been able to complete the service, sent it in to us, and we've gone, actually, do you know what, this thing's dead anyway, because it's like, because of the various bits and bobs and wear on there. But you can see some nice tooling marks on here where they've had a go. We do sometimes get kit form products where they come in plastic bags with little notes. It's not all that helpful because you like to be able to test things first and just kind of get on and do it. So
Sure. So it's not so much people servicing it themselves, but maybe not being prepared to service it from the outside.
We want people to service and look after their stuff because no one likes a phone call where it's like, hey, you've got a £300 bill here because you haven't serviced your product. But if you're going to undertake, probably I'd say like full service level stuff, be sure you've got the tooling, be sure you've got the consumable parts you need, and actually that it is intended to be user serviceable, because some products aren't intended to be user serviceable. You need, nitrogen filling machines, shaft clamps. It's like tools that are available but not regularly and like easily available to end consumers.
Right, I love a slammed front end, but I think this is taking it a little too far. What's happened here?
It's the wrong side of the stem, that one, unfortunately, I think.
So somebody has cut before measuring twice, the old accolade. So what's your advice to people when they're cutting their steering tube? I
mean, that was a brand new fork, obviously, when it went out. We sold it. Unfortunately, measurement was taken slightly inaccurately at the time. It's been cut. Then realised afterwards there's no space for the stem to go on top. It's not usable, that one anymore. It's can't put the material back on, definitely. Measure twice, cut once. It's an expensive part to replace that, especially when you've already bought the brand new fork.
How much is it to replace? Do you know?
Ballpark like £350, maybe something like that. It varies from manufacturer, but it's expensive. It's half the fork, so.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time, Greg. And they were definitely some common mistakes that hopefully you guys have learned from other people's mistakes and won't make in the future. But if you've made any mistakes for your shocks or forks or droppers, let me know down in the comments below. Let's start up that debate.